Asaf is coming from the music industry as well, and I could picture, because I've seen what he mentioned before, that yes, that could be, well, we could call it, but you won't like it, um, Nigerian Tarantino type. However,
The opportunity together with a good story and a talent you believe
it's,
in.
yeah. And
Okay.
the relation also with, it has to be important also, for me as a
Well,
producer,
bien
to have a
sûr.
good relation with a filmmaker, if possible.
Okay, we'll get back to that, but I'd like to have Axel. I'd like to give Axel an opportunity to speak as well. Axel, I looked at your titles and I was wondering, would you say that your productions touch on a common theme or a social issue of the African culture? And if
That's for
so, what is it?
that's for me.
No,
Oh, it's for
Axel.
me. I think. Um, what do you mean?
So, do you think that most of your films have the same kind of topic or a similar? Is there something similar in all of them?
No.
Completely
No,
different.
completely different. I have no
Do they show the same
editorial
kind of
line.
Africa
No.
or different types of Africa?
Yes, it's very complex problem. Some movie travel around the world easily, like Parasite you mentioned, and some others no. You know, they are success in their own country, but they don't cross the frontier. So uh, I produce a lot of uh, type of story. I love comedy. I love horror. I love art house film. No problem. If I if I meet a good story, it's enough for me. You know.
So you're driven by the story.
Yeah, only the story. Yeah.
So, sorry, one moment. Like, is it something with the responses you've been getting from the distribution channels you've been selling to? Can you um, kind of analyze which of your films got better responses or more, with more global success, and which less?
It's not in this term, you know. I'm a producer who I produce the biggest success in African movie in West Africa. You know, before the three rascals, les trois lascars en français, there was no African movie who made a success in the theater because you know it's a pity, but in West Africa we have almost 25 screener, you know, 20 theater
In West Africa?
in all West Africa,
Okay.
25 screen. That's
Screens.
all. It's here you have 200. You know,
I'm saying in
it's
West Africa, it's like Nigeria. Like,
yeah, yes, 200. It's a big difference. You can make money here in theater and make movie, but in West Africa it's impossible. You know, it's just impossible. That's why every African movie from West Africa need French money or European money. You know, and we have plenty of that. You know, of soft money.
Francis, what do you think made Axel's films so popular around Africa?
Because he likes Africa.
No, take your mic, please. Can you take your mic?
I believe he spent a lot of time in Burkina. I think whoever French producers are here today, we really have a passion, and we live, we understand, well, to a certain extent, we don't, Africa, and I know he has a passion for Burkina. And he's a good writer, because he didn't mention that most of the movie that he did, he wrote them, he spent some time. He's very meticulous, and we are working on the remake of The Three Lascars in Nigeria together. He's there, and I think he knows how to call through the sense. He got the thrive of the African understanding of the relationship, so it's a plus. Okay, it's an outside view, but I know he spent a lot of time in Burkina, so I think it helps a lot.
Okay.
That's what
I spend a lot of time on the script. That's true. You know,
So you write from your own experiences of Africa.
What I can say.
No,
It's
very good.
it was a success. The two films, The Three Rascals and Marabout Chéri, was success because for three reasons. First, the genre. It was comedy. You know, and comedy is the king of the genre. You know,
Three Cold Dishes is also a comedy, right?
no. It's a it's a thriller. It's not a comedy. And Marabout Chéri was a comedy, of course. And the second, after the subject, Three Rascal is okay. It's universal, you know. It's when a man.
So maybe you
cheat
should
a woman.
maybe you should tell the audience what the film is about.
Three Rascal. Oh, is that a story? It's an eye concept. You want?
Yeah, tell them like the log
Okay.
line.
I try to pitch it in English. It's very hard for me, but I can try. Okay, that's a story of three men in Ouagadougou, and they are married. They have kids. And but of course they have side chicks, like in every country in Africa, but in France too. And every night they see a chisa. They call that the chisa. And one day, one of the chisas says, "Hey guys, we are fed up to see you in secret. Why we don't go for three days of
They take a 3-day trip
yeah,
to some
3 day
resort.
trip all together in the country." And
And when they
of
get there-
course, the guy says, wrong idea. What we tell you, we tell to our wife, you know." And one have a good idea. He said, "Okay, I have an idea. We can tell to our wife we go to Abidjan, you know, for a conference, you know, about petrol and money and insurance and all the stuff. And of course, we will not go to Abidjan. We go with our
Side
side
chicks
chicks
to a resort.
yeah, in a resort. And they go, and they do that, and the wife believes the husbands. And but the problem is that when they arrive in
The resort?
the resort, they make the fiesta, of course, of sex and alcohol. But news come in Ouagadougou. The plane they take crash into nowhere. So what can we do? We are dead. Okay, that's all.
Okay.
Go and watch the movie when it comes.
Yeah.
No, so
No, we don't want to tell anymore. Yeah,
to make a link,
that's the
to make a
remake
link,
you're doing.
it's a universal subject, you know.
Okay.
And with my partner, we want to make a remake in the most country in the world to a remake of this story because it works anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
And the third point to make a success, it's the casting, because we are some famous actor from Ouagadougou and from Abidjan, you know.
Okay.
Yeah. So the population of Abidjan and Ouagadougou knows this actor, and we make a big success in Ouagadougou, in Abidjan. Not, it was a success too in the other country, but they only have one theater in each country. You know, there is some country with only 2 screens. You understand
So
that?
the casting
Yeah,
has
the
to
casting
be
is very important.
appealing
Yeah,
to the
comedy,
audience
the genre,
that you're going to release that.
yeah, the subject and the casting.
Thank you.
That's all.
Bibi, back to you.
And I apologize for my poor English. Sorry.
Well, we're hoping that the more time you spend with us in Nigeria, the better your English will get.
I hope so.
Thank you. Bibi, so listening to everything they're saying, I'm wondering, what do you think is the impact of these co-productions to the Nigerian cinema?
Cinema being a broad term for the film industry
Yes.
at large. I think it's important. I think obviously understands the economic volatility that we go through in what was already a volatile industry. The creative industry is, you know, volatile to say the least. World over is sort of reshaping itself with the streamers, with the tech companies, all that. So, and you add the volatility of our economy. I think Forex tends to be a stabilizing force, like it or not. I think some of the stuff that he was mentioning about not enough distribution through cinemas across, you know, Africa, period, even maybe South Africa is probably the only robust cinema industry, if I'm to guess. And so you're sort of stuck into a, you know, narrow alleyway with certain streamers that penetrate your home market. But once you have co-productions with other spaces, they get the value of your industry, your space, your talent, your audience that people realize is a big audience, and you get the, you know, value of their distribution, their market spaces, a new audience, stabilizing currency, so many things. Not to mention, I think just real talk, it's Africa's time. I know we say that all the time for the last 50 years, but it really is, at least in the West, there is a focus on Africa for many reasons.
So what would you say is the same impact, like now you mentioned the impact on Nollywood, right? What would be the impact on the global markets in your opinion?
Yeah, that's what I'm coming to. I mean, I think the world is in this recreation of individualism, in this new ethos of self-discovery and wanting to be bigger than the boxes and the constructs that, you know, you're put into. And that's a big thing with the West. You sort of wake up every day, go to work, watch the same television channels, and I think that's what social media has done, is there's a real yearning to sort of not just discover other cultures, but what you actually represent. And so I have a lot of conversations with Black America where they feel like, is there representation in the West or is it in Africa? I have a lot of, you know, conversations with, you know, people who are enthralled by our music, our fashion, and other aspects, and they believe our stories are just as exciting, just don't have the right package in it. And so I think there's a lot of intrigue from around the world where if we are able to, and I guess one more, but this is positive, this is complete theory. Hollywood is going through such a restructure that they have to find cheaper ways to make films. They just have to. Like, they cannot continue to exist with the structure that they've had. And so you're seeing much less bill in California recently to try and match the rebates of Georgia and Vancouver and so, because you're seeing much less productions there. I believe, yes, Europe makes better productions than we do, Asia makes better productions than we do, but get our production quality up, Africa is going to be a place where people come to tell stories, because it comes with both the cheaper productions, and this is kind of what's cool now. This is where the music is interesting. This is where there's a real see.
Can we have another microphone?
I think there's a real
Battery.
potential for,
There was
you
an
know,
extra one.
value from Nollywood to the West and to other worlds. If that's what's happening with Korea, that's what's happening with Asia, that's what's happened with India. I don't see why that shouldn't be the case in West Africa.
I thought I was going to skip this question, but something you said made me want to pursue it. Because you mentioned, you keep mentioning, if we up our quality, we're going to match the Asians, the this, the that. You said in that same interview that Nollywood is still at an infancy stage because we don't have enough manpower to man all the skill sets that we require in a film production. Do you think that these international co-productions will affect that as well?
Well, if I said manpower, I misspoke. I
Maybe
mean
experienced
Yes,
manpower.
expertise is
Yeah.
probably the right word. And yes, I think just listening to the panel, I already feel like there's a couple of things that I'm learning. How much more if we actually worked on Three Rascals together? Wink, wink. You know, ultimately, I feel like, you know, the co-production we just did with Pretty Neat in South Africa for Soft Love, there was such a transfer of information. You know, it's just impossible in the creative space to, if you want to make a film alone, which is what I believe you were talking about, that very unnormal, like you have one editor, that stuff, those days are gone. Like, you could still have some of those films, but those days are gone. Those are for TikTok videos. If you want to make film, you have to collaborate with people who are better than you. That's just the way filmmaking goes. And so I think international perspectives at the minimum, not to mention wherewithal and expertise, certainly will increase the production value and things like that, that we can put forward to the world.
Okay, Francis. On three cold dishes. Yes, I'm going back to that one.
Yes.
And I'd like to know, at what stage of the production did you come in, and what were the key elements you saw in securing all the deals for this quadruple partnership?
It was, as I mentioned at the very beginning, well, I didn't write the story, but I think we came when Afriff had, we had the first draft, and then there were more drafts after, because we had to listen to something. So it came at the in fact, we are partners from the very, very beginning. We pulled out maybe story development, how it fits, even from some dialogues which are in French. We have to get someone to review the dialogues in order to get, like in the Sri Lankas, the essence of Ivory Coast or Benin. So it was quite important. So it was a very beautiful story. We had a lot of challenges, and maybe Afriff will speak more about it because he lived through. We should have, basically the movie is in the final post-production. We have more or less a final rough cut. 5 minutes less, but no, I think it doesn't. But we are hoping to get selected to one or two major festivals to start the ball rolling. We believe that this movie is made, I'm an old fox, so for a big screen. So we won't be, there was a discussion with SF at one point, but going to streamer, but no, okay, money could be, but the money has to be seen, the film has to be seen, and as it is a movie which has a voice, and we are trying to embark NGOs against this sexual trafficking with women associations. So that's one of the message of the thing. So it's finalized. I mean, I think we are still in the final with sound design, the score hopefully with Bernard Boy being on board. At the beginning, we were very few on board, but then we had some issues, and maybe Afriff will comment on that. There was a car crash last year, so this has cost.
Wait, so don't tell us everything. Let Afriff tell us the whole
story.
Sorry,
okay. Then I hand it over to Afriff.
Yes, please.
Yeah. But so, from the very beginning and to the very end, to the successful.
I think it's from the story development for myself and Francis. I spot on the story while traveling to Fespaco. I lived through it. and it bettered curiosity because prior to that time, the only film that I've seen that explored the theme are mostly stories told from Africa to Europe. And my experience, it felt like it was normal across the border, right? And out of curiosity, I went to my first night in Ouagadougou. I said I wanted to go to where I could see prostitutes, and I
You
couldn't
saw a
believe
lot of
what I saw. Like we were literally driving, like on the side of our cars, like they just some young girls just banging on our, like the window, like literally just honking for who's going, right? I've never even seen that in Nigeria. Talk less of
I never saw
Ouagadougou.
that in
And
Burkina Faso.
when I got to the hotel, I was asking questions, and someone said, "Yeah, even here they do have IDs, like government IDs." I said, "If they do have IDs, it means probably they do get taxed, and if they do get taxed, it means that's a business, and if it's a business, somebody needs to supply it. So what's the supply chains like?" Maybe that was what I experienced while traveling to Waga, and started doing research. I realized 90% of the victims never made it out of Africa. It's just they were just probably trafficked from an African country to another African countries. And if nobody has told that story, how about we tell the story? And in the development process, where the co-production actually now jumps in, from Akunde, I thought I was making movie for Nigerians, right? And I was even very skeptical because it was Akunde was like 50% Hausa and 50%, 30% English and some
English,
Yoruba
Hausa,
in
and
it.
Yoruba, and there was
Yeah.
another.
So I was worried that even distributing Akunde in Lagos might be a bit challenging. Like some audience might have to rely on subtitle to understand. I mean, like people that doesn't speak Hausa. And after the release of Akunde, I was in Paris for like 4 times, different festivals, showcasing Akunde. I do not know what the French people love about Akunde, but for some funny reason, it then now exposed me into understanding the French language and what the cultures are and what they find fascinating about our own storytelling. And when I was going to Waga also, it was also the same film, Akunde, that I was going to Fespaco on. And when I spot on that reality, I thought, okay, how about we make another story? And purpose is important for me, right? What's driving the story? For Akunde, it was unemployment. And for Three Cold Dishes, it was trafficking, but in a different light, right? Most trafficking films that you've seen always victimize the victims. So it starts from a story of a poor girl sponsored across to Europe, and then they have to live through it, make money, spend money, raise money for the sponsor, and then they will have to come back to Africa poor. Like, I don't think that will be the reality of everybody that have gone through that journey. So if we have to tweak it, and I wanted to also make, as much as I wanted to have social cause, I wanted to also be entertaining to watch. I said, what if these girls actually have power? Because there will be some that have gone beyond, live beyond that experience. What would be some of the things that they want to do? Maybe revenge, and revenge is very sweet for the kind of genre that we were trying to make. And to make it bigger than life, since it's now a reality that is not limited to Nigeria, because I saw it through more than like 6 borders. That means it's common to our region. So it means we could tell a story that someone in Ouagadougou, Cameroon, Senegal, Ivory Coast can relate to, right? And that bettered Three Cold Dishes and expanding the market. I don't know if you know, Nigeria has quite a lot of amazing talent in terms of storytelling. So for you to shine here, you have to be you have to just do something different, right? So thinking of not just focusing on exploring the Nigerian market, but telling stories and collaborating with agencies and companies that are doing well in other regions. So it is not only a soft films product, but a collaboration of different countries that shines in different regions. That way we could also explore opportunities that I can't access as a Nigerian, but with partnering with like Francis, it means if Francis company can access any funding opportunities in France. But based on this relationship that we are doing, right, we could jointly assess that finance. And I think that was it for myself and Francis for Three Cold Dishes.
I also find it very interesting how in both films, your main characters end up winning in a sense, or they're coming from a very weak place and they end up winning, and I think it gives hope at the end of the story for the audience, which is also a very important driving force for the success of a film. What
Wasn't
were the
intentional.
challenges? Sorry?
Wasn't intentional.
I think it was intentional because you said it yourself. You were kind of tired of seeing those victims being victimized over and over, and I agree with you completely. So you were looking for a strong angle. And yeah, so we're in agreement. I do want to hear about the challenges you had in production. So yeah, let's hear about the challenges in the production itself.
Making film in Nigeria is tough.
What made you choose to film it in 4 different countries? Was it the story? Was it production?
I don't know. So this morning I was just discussing with a friend and I realized that I could fall in the class of a crazy person, right? Why would anybody in the time of Boko Haram decide to go shoot in the north, right? But again, my conclusion with my friend this morning, I think I'm understanding my own voice, right? Maybe if it's easy, it's not my take. If it is hard, it means there are less people that will drive through that path. And if there are less people going through that path, if you survive it, right? If you survive it, you probably might win, right?
So your destiny is to take the road less taken.
Yes. And that leads to your question. It means it's going to be very hard. So shooting in Nigeria is tough enough. So imagine shooting in Nigeria times 4. I have never done it before, and I do not think I don't know why I felt like maybe it might be easy.
What drove you? Like, was there a specific scene
Purpose.
that you had to?
Purpose. I wanted to tell a story, and based off what I saw, I spotted it while traveling across borders. I could have probably shoot the entire film in Nigeria and just make it a Nigerian film. But I wanted to be as true as possible to what I experienced. And to do that, it means the story needs to travel. And for the story to travel, it means we also need to travel. We literally have to travel through the paths those girls also travel through in the making of the film. And that's where the challenge comes in. First, I do not speak French. My French is very bad. But in fact, the second draft of Three Cold Dishes was 80% French, and 20% English. So draft was in English, but I was going to tell the story in French. And to do that, it means I have to study, I have to learn, I have to collaborate with French director to make sure that we don't muddle the nuances. Because if I say a word in Yoruba, right, it could mean many things. Some things that is in Yoruba could mean something bad, but to someone it could just be a jab. So because I do not speak French is not the reason why I should make a very bad French film. And you could do that in translation. So we had to collaborate by finding a French director to collaborate in the writing of Three Cold Dishes. So going through that phase was tough. It was almost a year. I think at some point OIF came through to even bring in a script vet to kind of help us find the good, the bad, and how to make it better during the development stage. So that to the French audience, I know what is going to be exciting to the Nigerian audience. That's my forte, right? But for the French audience, we have to get a writer from France to help vet to make sure that the story, as much as it's a multi-language, it makes the same sense to a French audience, since we're trying to cross-market in distribution for Three Cold Dishes. And in the making of it, because we were traveling from different countries, we are exposed to quite a huge amount of risk. You can imagine what it takes to move more than 70 to 80 crew members from Nigeria to Benin.
That was my question.
Yeah.
Were you contacting companies in those countries, getting crew members from them? Were you bringing everybody from here?
We were doing home.
How did you find those companies in those other countries? And like I asked Francis earlier, how was it the whole journey of securing deals with all these functions. Basically, it's a very complex. If you think about it, it's a very
Yeah,
complex
very
business transaction.
Very complex. For us, we were doing Hall, right? We were partnering with agencies that are strong in their space, and we let them handle the things that they can handle. For me, as much as in the course of the development, the story changed. It became almost like 60% English because I could only sell it as a Nigerian film, right? And the French part then make it bigger than what it is, right? It means market-wise, we could expand. The film can travel beyond Nigeria, right? So we were partnering with agencies outside Nigeria, but for the core team, we had huge number of Nigerian HODs, so that when I'm speaking, we're speaking the same language. So if I leave them to independently undo some aspect of the process, they would deliver based off the expectation from me. And we traveled with like 70 people from Nigeria, just crew member, and we also scout about like more than half of that in each countries as local talents that we worked with from Benin. Equipment were sourced in Nigeria because equipment chain currently across West Africa is still bigger in Nigeria than any other West African country. So we had to go with more than like 2 trucks of equipment, and these are high techs, right? Generator, we had to travel with generator, even get into some country and realize we don't need it. But for safety, we just have to, because each day on the set is quite huge that we cannot afford to lose.
So you traveled everything by road?
Yes. Apart from the HODs and the cast, right? The rest of us, the crew member, we had to travel by road from Lagos to Benin, Benin to Ivory Coast. The only part where everybody had to travel by flight was Mauritania, and it was because it's just a far country off the base. And that led to the accident that happened in the northern side of
So
Benin.
tell us about the accident.
So we're making a documentary about the
Like
film,
BTS?
which we're trying to monetize, right? Not just BTS, right? And this is a core part of the story. Okay, exclusive to the audience. We were in the northern side of Benin. Northern side of Benin for us in Nigeria is like we were in Kano. So imagine we travel by road from Lagos to Kano, and we had an accident. We lost the entire crew. Entire equipment truck. We didn't lose crew. Yeah, we lost an entire equipment
As
truck.
in you couldn't find it or what?
We had an accident and it crashed.
It crashed
it
with
was just
people
a lock-
inside or?
No, so the driver was trying to overtake by bend and then ran into another oncoming truck. And we were in another vehicle, another RV with some of the actors, and it hit our own RV, and we had to have to just save ourselves. We didn't even know that the truck was ours, right? Because everything happened within just seconds. And we just saw the guy going in the bush, and then the huge truck, like 16 tires truck, somersaulting.
Whoa.
And we were thanking God that we survived something that could have cost our life. This is in less than 15 seconds. And then I told the driver, to please stop. Let's try and see if we can rescue these guys. Not knowing the guys were our guys, right? And then we parked, and then we ran towards them to see if we can help out. And then I saw press on the truck, and it was in the moment I realized, oh fuck, that's my people. And then I saw it like, yo, is anybody in this truck still alive? Right? And I rushed there like I could do anything, and then I saw I couldn't do much. I just had to check if anybody's in there. Luckily, there were people that were injured. Someone almost lost an arm, but nobody died. And the chaos was not the accident, actually. It's how do we move this shoot further? It's not Nigeria. Police got there in less than 5 minutes, and they started questioning us. Like, they wanted to know if we're the cause of the accident. Like, so if they have to arrest us. And we had to go through writing statements and clearing the police that these are our people. This was out of mistake, and I think everybody will be fine. Finding the nearest hospital, rescuing people. I think my experience as filming concert, having to have shot a concert, direct a concert, and produce a concert where actual people died in the process, and seeing how that crisis was managed helped in that moment where it could have been a say we're done.
So
and
what
luckily,
would you say was like your lesson from that accident in managing that kind of crisis?
I think as a leader, it's important to have vast experience in crisis. I think just being a director or a producer of a film, like you don't even need to travel that far to experience such crisis. But the ability to manage it, survive, regroup, and still continue and chart the mission forward and see it to the end. It's very important. It wasn't easy. It took us almost, because we had to do refinancing for
Yeah,
quite
I
some
know.
months.
I was going to talk about that, but
Yeah.
we don't have any more time. Does the audience have any questions for our panelists over there? No. Can somebody's going to give you a mic right away. Actually, I was going to ask you some about your so
Serious? Sorry.
just a moment before you speak, while we're waiting for the mic. So Arsuf was mentioning reaching out to agencies, etc., and you also have been doing co-productions with numerous countries.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you go about it, how you secure those partnerships, and what are the challenges that you face?
Yeah, that's always a challenge, but I was happy. But I made some film in Africa and Mexico too, and I'm really happy because when I go in a country, but I made some company, I made some producer, some script writer, and after I think and I choose one.
You make it sound so simple, like I met
Yeah.
this guy, I met this guy, and that's
Yeah.
it. Like
Yes, yes.
no challenges.
But why?
Excellent. We already have the mic here. I'm Samira Vera Cruz. I'm from the Cape Verde Islands, filmmaker. I started as a producer, now director. I think that one of the things that I'm very curious about in your panel, especially as you were talking about all these co-productions in West Africa and traveling all these countries, like I think it would be interesting to understand how these other African countries relate to the production part. Like, are they co-producers? Are they line producers? Because we do talk a lot about co-productions with the global north, but how does it work when we actually collaborate with each other? Like, when the money gets here, how is it distributed between our countries? And how do we start changing the narrative and starting collaborating as equals between us as well? Of course, the northern money can come, it's welcome. But how do we get the money between ourselves as well, you know? We love OEF, like, welcome. But how do we start talking as equals in the same table? How does that work for you?
Using three code dishes as a case study. So we shot in Nigeria, we shot in Benin, we shot in Ivory Coast, and we shot in Mauritania. In Benin, we had a line producer. We also had an associate producer who has strong access to the government. So getting the right documents for our vehicles, for our equipment, for our crew, crossing borders from Nigeria to Benin was easy. We had some challenges, but the recovery phase was quite faster because of his involvement in the project. I mean, the associate producer in Benin for Benin's situation. Like, our equipment was grounded for like 3 days at the border, even though we had all the letters. But they said we need to have another letter that has serial numbers of all the equipment. I do not know how that is going to be possible, especially for Benin and Lagos, Nigeria, that we think things will be easier. And the letter was meant to come from custom. It was going to take about another 1 week. But with the influence of the associate producer, who is the guy from Benin, who had a strong access to the government, it was able to help us fast track that within 2 days. So some of the challenges were easily solved because we had strong locals for countries that we were filming in, being part of the project. For Ivory Coast, it involves the financing, right? So to access OIF, we had to partner with a production company from a French
Francophone.
African country. And so we have partner in Alma Production in Cote d'Ivoire. who is a co-producer on the project and also an executive producer on the project. So it means equity investor, and also through the partnership, we could access funding that is accessible to Ivory Coast. He helped us in recruiting most of our local talents in Ivory Coast. So like I said, 30% of every country crew member were sourced locally. And managing that, we just let the associate producer work like line producer to run the entire chain of that unit. For Mauritania, we do not have anybody on board, so we had to source a line producer locally who handles that unit. So they do not influence the funding round, but they made shooting in that country easy and smooth for us. I think sourcing, having a mix of your own people that you trust, especially mounting the core aspect of the process, is important, and then getting local hands makes things easier, so you are not a stranger in the country that you are probably shooting in.
BB wants to comment on that, and we'll close with that. And Francis, and we'll close. All right.
So I just wanted to, I think I can answer a bit of your question and that together. To answer your question very simply, LinkedIn actually helps quite significantly. We're doing, and I'm going to use this as a thing to posit, that a strategy to posit to Nigerians that I think is very important for Nollywood. A lot of people won't be able to relate. It'll seem like a very crazy, broad idea. But we're fortunate. We're doing 2 international productions next year. Both are $2 million each. One is somewhere in Asia. I can't speak specifics, but one is in America, one is in Asia. And the reason I bring it up is I think we're in a time in the world where we have a chance to reverse the stuff you were talking about. Yes, the money from the north is welcome, but I think it's time to put money from Nigeria to the north.
I concur.
I think, as you know, just tactically, Nemsha, we look around the globe, and I know the numbers are scary, but we can come together and put some of these numbers together. You'll be very surprised what $1 million does outside Nigeria. You think it's just Nigeria that needs money. You know, you talk to people in Australia. There was a delegation from Brazil, just around the world. If you have $1 million, people are going to stop what they're doing and listen to you. I don't care where you're from.
Okay.
So you have a chance to put together things that affect the independent film world is suffering right now, period. And you have a chance to be a producer that brings your own insight, brings your own funding, and you're able to say, these are the stories, the same way it's been done forever. That's how the West has brought their own insight and their own stories into our world, right? And so I think there's a real chance to make Nigerian money go really far in this time that there's interest in our stories and our culture and so on. And so that's something I think you should really think about. Find places that, you know, they don't have the immediate distribution that you have. You'll be shocked that a lot of these countries can't get their hands on Netflix, can't get their hands on Disney, can't get their hands. We've leapfrogged quite a bit of stuff that we don't realize. And so you're going into Belgium with a couple $1 million and you're trying to make an independent film that has some Nigerian sensibility, and you're doing some stuff that Asaph is talking about. And trust me, I think it's time to start to export some of that stuff in a different way.
Francis? Yeah.
I just want to add on to come back to access to the north is not only money. I just want to emphasize on that. It being in Mami Wata or with 3 cold dishes, we also can provide some creativity. In France, we love cinema. We love Nigeria, and we can work. I have 24 years of working with Nigeria, and I can see the people that really work together. On the creative side, I think, for instance, both for Mami Wata and 3 cold dishes, we found 2 top editors. Because these guys, I know them, I love them, but they are in their movie. And when you have 3 hours of bout à bout, it's very difficult for someone who spend a lot of time with all the headaches of going to different countries and to get, he wants each of the scene. Then you need an outside view. Of course, you have also top editors in Nigeria, I won't say, but in France, we have really good guys. And there are a lot of people who work already and who want to know. In fact, the editor we found was the first time he worked on an African movie. And it was quite interesting to see. He loved the story. And then it helps because it's an outside view. So
Thank you all for coming. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you, Afriff.